When winter temperatures drop below freezing and snow blankets the countryside, most families retreat indoors with central heating and warm cars. But Amish communities follow ancient rules that force them to face winter's brutal conditions without modern protection, creating survival situations that outsiders find impossible to believe. Open buggies. The sight that shocks visitors most during winter visits to Amish communities is families traveling in completely open horse-drawn buggies through snow and freezing temperatures. The four Old Order Amish communities of Allen County, Indiana, use open buggies during winter as part of their strict religious observance. These aren't partially enclosed vehicles with broken heaters. They're intentionally designed without any protection from the elements. Schwarzentruber Amish, among the most conservative groups, use wooden-wheeled buggies with steel bands that have completely open fronts exposed to weather conditions. No windshields, no doors, no protection whatsoever from driving snow, freezing rain, or Arctic winds that sweep across open farmland at highway speeds. No heat. Most Amish buggies contain no heating systems whatsoever, regardless of outside temperature or travel distance. Families traveling several miles to church services in sub-zero weather rely entirely on thick blankets called buggy robes for warmth. These heavy coverings provide the only barrier between passengers and winter conditions that would be considered emergency situations for most people. Some families resort to hot water bottles made from plastic milk jugs placed near their feet during extreme cold snaps, but this represents the maximum heating technology allowed. The rule against artificial heating means that hour-long buggy rides in freezing temperatures occur with nothing more than shared body heat and wool blankets to prevent frostbite. Walking rules. Amish children walk to school in 2-degree Fahrenheit weather with no protection from cold except the clothing on their backs. School attendance continues regardless of weather conditions, and children are expected to arrive with clear minds after facing the elements during their morning walk. This isn't occasional hardship, but daily reality throughout winter months. Parents don't provide transportation during blizzards, ice storms, or dangerous wind chill conditions. Walking through snowdrifts and across frozen fields is considered character building rather than child endangerment. The community views this exposure to harsh elements as necessary preparation for adult responsibilities and spiritual strength. Occasionally, neighbors offer rides to children they encounter walking in severe weather, but this represents kindness rather than obligation. The fundamental expectation remains that children will walk to school regardless of conditions, developing resilience through direct confrontation with winter's challenges. Bundling up in multiple layers and facing the elements is considered refreshing and mentally clarifying rather than suffering. The community believes that physical hardship creates mental toughness and spiritual fortitude that serves children throughout their lives. School attendance. Cold weather never stops church attendance or school operations in Amish communities. Services and classes continue in all weather conditions that would close public schools for safety reasons. Church elders expect families to travel miles through blizzards and ice storms to maintain their spiritual obligations. School board members arrive early Monday mornings to restart wood stoves that have been cold all weekend, but classes proceed even if heating systems fail. Students accept responsibility for their own cold weather protection rather than expecting adults to modify schedules based on temperature or precipitation. Snow days and weather cancellations don't exist in Amish education systems. The concept of staying home due to cold contradicts fundamental beliefs about facing adversity and maintaining community commitments. Children learn that weather represents external circumstances that shouldn't influence internal spiritual duties. Schools continue operating with minimal heating when fuel supplies run low or heating systems malfunction. Students gather around single heat sources when necessary, sharing warmth while continuing their lessons without complaint or requests for dismissal. Clothing restrictions. Women must wear calf-length dresses even during blizzards and sub-zero temperatures, with no exceptions for extreme weather conditions. These long skirts and dresses must cover arms and legs completely, regardless of wind chill factors that could cause frostbite on exposed skin. Heavy bonnets worn over prayer coverings provide the only additional protection for heads and necks during winter weather. The bonnets offer minimal warmth compared to modern winter hats, but represent the maximum head covering permitted by religious guidelines. Solid colors remain mandatory for all winter clothing, with no allowance for bright colors that might improve visibility during snowstorms. Patterns that could provide psychological warmth or seasonal cheer are forbidden as too decorative and worldly for proper religious observance. Natural fabrics, including wool and cotton, provide the only approved materials for winter garments. Synthetic materials engineered for extreme cold protection are rejected as too modern and disconnected from traditional methods of survival. Women make their own winter clothing using hand sewing techniques rather than machines, limiting the speed and efficiency of producing adequate cold weather protection for large families. No electricity. The majority of Amish homes are heated only with wood-burning stoves, regardless of house size or outside temperature. Families living in large two-story houses rely on single heating sources that cannot adequately warm multiple rooms during bitter cold periods. Tapping electricity from public utility lines is forbidden under religious law, eliminating access to electric heaters, heated blankets, or any modern heating technology. This restriction applies even during life-threatening cold snaps that would justify emergency measures in most communities. Coal and wood stoves placed in the center of rooms create small areas of warmth surrounded by cold spaces throughout homes. Family members congregate around these single heat sources during extreme weather, sometimes sleeping near stoves when temperatures drop too low for upstairs bedrooms. The narrow Goldilocks zone near wood stoves provides the only comfortable temperature area in homes during severe cold. Standing too close results in burned clothing and shoes, while moving too far away means immediate discomfort from inadequate heating. Laundry rules. Washing clothes remains an extremely cold job during winter months, with no allowances for weather conditions or personal comfort. Hand washing continues in unheated spaces using cold water when wells freeze or heating water becomes difficult. Electric washers and dryers are forbidden regardless of season, forcing families to rely on manual washing methods that require extended exposure to cold conditions. Traditional washboards still used in conservative communities demand significant time outdoors or in unheated laundry areas. Outdoor clotheslines provide the only approved drying method year-round, meaning wet laundry must be hung outside during snowstorms and freezing temperatures. Clothes freeze solid on lines but must remain outside until weather conditions allow natural drying. Laundry schedules cannot be adjusted for weather convenience, requiring families to complete washing tasks regardless of wind, snow, or dangerous cold that would postpone such activities in most households. Animal care. Draft horses must be harnessed and hitched to hay carts during the coldest weather, with no allowances for temperature considerations or animal comfort. The hay cart remains open with no protection against wind, creating difficult working conditions for both animals and handlers. Daily animal care continues regardless of temperature, requiring extended outdoor exposure for feeding, watering, and maintaining livestock. These responsibilities cannot be postponed or modified based on weather conditions that would justify delayed outdoor work elsewhere. Horses work in sub-zero temperatures with minimal protection beyond their natural coats and shared body heat. The animals receive blankets during extreme conditions but continue pulling loads and performing transportation duties throughout winter. Manual labor required for all animal feeding and care means spending hours outdoors during dangerous wind-chill conditions. Carrying feed, breaking ice on water sources, and maintaining animal shelters demand extended cold exposure without modern protective equipment. Home heating. Large two-story homes prove difficult to keep warm during bitter cold weather, especially older houses built before modern insulation techniques. Families living in these structures experience significant temperature variations throughout their homes during winter months. The Goldilocks zone near wood stoves represents the only comfortable area in most homes, creating competition for warmth among family members during extreme cold. This narrow area of adequate temperature forces families into small spaces while leaving most of their homes uncomfortably cold. Running upstairs to cold bedrooms requires barefoot contact with wooden floors that approach outdoor temperatures during severe weather. Children and adults experience shock from frozen surfaces while moving between heated and unheated areas of their homes. Limited heating sources for entire houses mean that bedrooms, bathrooms, and work areas remain at near freezing temperatures throughout winter. Families shiver under multiple quilts until body heat gradually warms their sleeping areas each night. Travel restrictions. Bern, Indiana Amish communities prohibit tops on buggies entirely, forcing year-round exposure to weather conditions during transportation. This rule applies regardless of destination distance or weather severity, creating survival situations during routine travel. Heavy-duty umbrellas manufactured within the community provide the only protection from driving snow and freezing rain during buggy travel. These umbrellas must be held manually while managing horses and navigating roads during dangerous weather conditions. Hot water bottles made from plastic milk jugs represent emergency warming measures for extreme cold, but their use acknowledges the inadequacy of approved heating methods. Even these minimal comfort items are considered borderline acceptable rather than standard equipment. Ice scrapers and cloths for frozen windshields become necessary tools for maintaining visibility during winter travel, but clearing ice must be done manually without heated defroster systems available in modern vehicles. Body heat provides the only reliable warmth source in enclosed buggies, requiring multiple passengers to share limited space and warmth during lengthy winter journeys. Medical emergency rules. When medical emergencies occur during severe winter weather, Amish communities maintain strict restrictions on transportation and treatment that outsiders find shocking. Even life-threatening situations must follow religious guidelines about technology use and outside world contact. Families cannot call ambulances directly, but must rely on community networks to contact English neighbors who can summon emergency services. During blizzards that make roads impassable for horse-drawn buggies, families may be completely isolated from medical care for days or weeks. The community accepts this isolation as divine will rather than seeking helicopter evacuation or emergency transportation that violates their technology restrictions. Women in labor during winter storms give birth at home regardless of complications, with only traditional midwives available for assistance. Frostbite and hypothermia cases are treated using traditional remedies rather than immediate modern medical intervention. The community views suffering during winter emergencies as spiritual testing rather than preventable medical situations requiring urgent outside help. Food storage rules. Winter food storage follows traditional preservation methods that seem primitive compared to modern refrigeration and processing. Root cellars dug into frozen ground provide the only approved food storage, requiring families to venture into underground spaces during dangerous cold to retrieve daily meals. These cellars maintain temperatures just above freezing, creating harsh conditions for food access. Families cannot purchase modern preserved foods or use electric refrigeration to supplement their winter food supplies. All preservation must be completed before winter, using traditional canning, smoking, and drying methods that require intensive pre-winter labor. When preservation fails due to weather or technique errors, families face food shortages with no approved alternatives. Ice harvesting from frozen ponds provides the only refrigeration method allowed, requiring dangerous work on unstable ice surfaces during winter months. Men must cut, transport, and store massive ice blocks using hand tools while exposed to sub-zero temperatures and wind. This ice must last through spring and summer, creating pressure to harvest during the most dangerous winter conditions. Sleep rules. Sleeping arrangements during extreme cold follow strict rules that prioritize spiritual discipline over physical comfort. Multiple family members often share beds to conserve body heat, but this crowding occurs in unheated bedrooms where breath freezes and water glasses turn to ice overnight. Children sleep in rooms that maintain near outdoor temperatures throughout winter months. Traditional quilts provide the only approved bedding warmth, with no electric blankets or modern heating devices permitted. These quilts, while effective, require significant time to warm using only body heat, meaning family members shiver for extended periods before achieving comfortable sleep temperatures. Some nights require sleeping in winter clothing to prevent hypothermia in unheated bedrooms. The community forbids moving beds closer to heat sources or sleeping near wood stoves, as this would compromise traditional room usage and family structure. Families must maintain proper bedroom arrangements regardless of temperature, forcing children and adults to endure dangerous cold while attempting to sleep. Early rising remains mandatory regardless of sleep quality affected by cold, maintaining work schedules that don't accommodate winter hardship. These winter rules demonstrate how Amish communities prioritize spiritual discipline over physical comfort, creating resilience through intentional hardship that most outsiders would consider extreme. Their willingness to face dangerous conditions without modern protection reflects deep commitment to traditional values